Good morning, Rock Point. I'm Adina.
Now, Mike.
And we are so excited to be with you today. You know, one thing we love about Rock Point is that we have such a good online family. We have this whole campus, whole community of people watching from home, and I love that. And this morning is a great morning to watch from home because it is freezing here in Texas.
Outside, goodness.
Freezing. I'm so glad that I am at home because I don't like to be cold. Okay, so last week we talked a little bit about the Super Bowl. Did you get to watch the Super Bowl?
Yes, you definitely watched the Super Bowl. Who were you going for? Was your team?
Well, I was going for not the team that won because
same.
That's right. And
going for Kansas City.
Yeah,
you know, I really wanted
underdog.
Yeah, I wanted Pat to win. I wanted to get him another ring. But like I said, I am happy for Tom. I'm happy for him. But nevertheless, I was really going for Pat. So what did you eat?
Okay, so we had Chewies at the we had a little Super Bowl party. Wow. And we had some Chewies. So got to have a little creamy jalapeno, a little salsa, which chips and salsa, that's my favorite. So it was perfect.
Awesome. That tops what I ate.
Perfect. Yes.
I ate at home, so you had Chewies, so that's awesome.
So what do you think about the commercials?
I love them all. I mean, I don't have one that really stands out aside from the one with Bruce Springsteen, the Jeep commercial.
Okay.
I feel that most of the commercials were a little bit over the top. I mean, this was a Jeep commercial, but it was hard to remember that it was even about a car because it seemed a little political. That's the one that I really remember the most. What about you?
You know, I don't. That's funny you say it was a car commercial. I don't even remember what the commercial was for, but it was the one that had Gwen Stefani and Adam Levine and like Blake Shelton in it. And it was like talking about how they could have met or something. No idea what the commercial was for because I was trying to figure out like, what are they talking about here? So I don't know. I didn't think the commercials were that great, but I also wasn't really paying attention. So, and I will tell you, I only made it till halftime, and then I was like, I have to go to bed. So,
well, I mean, after halftime, it was pretty much obvious, where the game was going. So,
Well, I think there was the streaker that came after halftime, and I missed that altogether.
Same, yeah. They made sure to kind of pan away from that, so it didn't. You saw him run onto the field, but after that, you didn't see anything else, which is good.
Yes. Well, I think we should take a minute and say good morning to our first-time guest. And if you are a first-time guest, you can text 512-710-2323, and we are going to send you a cup of coffee because we just want to say hello and thanks for watching.
Yes. Also, there's a connection card QR code. This is a way for us to pray for you, and we don't take it lightly at Rock Point. The staff prays over each and every one of our cards fervently. So, please take the time and request prayer. It would be an honor for us to pray for you.
Absolutely. There are also some other next steps on there. One of the things that we have created, I think last week we talked about what I love about COVID is we really focused on our online community, and we created some next steps just for the people on our online community, just for our online family. And so we've got some great things on there that anyone can do from home. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
All right, well, I think we can wrap it up and we can send everyone over we have a great service plan today, and you guys can watch and listen to this.
Sit back and enjoy with your coffee, of course.
That's right.
Woo, have you been outside? This is crazy. Welcome to Texas, right? Look, we can't even get to the church to bring you the wonderful service we were so excited about today. So we're all iced in at our houses. So please, let me ask you, stay in, stay safe through this stuff. It's really, really icy out there. But that doesn't mean that we still can't worship together. And so we've put together, what a great team we have. We have put together a service for you. And yes, it's going to be a replay of a message, but let me tell you, it's going to be the one message that I think we can never stop hearing together. And then our bands, we've got some great music recorded already, and we're going to bring that to you. And then, hey, don't forget, kids experience at the end. So look, stay safe. I got to get in. I'm freezing to death. Y'all have a great Sunday. We'll see you soon.
Since when has impossible ever stopped you? Friday's disappointment, Sunday's empty tomb. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. A Pentecostal fire, stirring something new, yeah. You're not gonna run out of miracles anytime soon. Yeah, see resurrection power runs in my veins too. Yeah, I believe there's another miracle here in this room. Sing it now. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. My God is able to save and deliver and heal and restore anything that He wants to. Yeah. Just ask the man who was thrown on the bones of Elijah if there's anything that He can't do. Yeah. Just ask the stone that was rolled at the tomb in the garden. What happens when God says to move? I feel Him doing it now. I feel Him moving it now. I feel Him doing it now. Doing it, doing it. Yeah, this is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm gonna live again. Say, this is the sound of dry bones rattling.
Well, hello everyone. I'm so glad that you joined us today. I don't think I've ever been as happy maybe to ever be able to say Happy New Year. I mean, we made it, right? I'm so glad. There's been so much put in. Isn't that true? There's been so much put into getting through 2020 and on the other side to 2021. I mean, because isn't it true? Think about this. Emotionally speaking, 2020 was about 12 months and 487 years long, right? I mean, that's just what it felt like to me all the way through. And I think that we have possibly lived in what is going to go down in history as the worst year of our lives. At least I'm hoping that that's true, right? I hope that's real. And so I just want to say congratulations, Happy New Year. You survived it, you're here, and I'm so glad that you're here. But the truth is that if we're honest, we lost some things in 2020, And we may never, ever get those things back. I mean, Taco Bell, they canceled the quesarito. They canceled the loaded grillers. They canceled the 7-layer burrito. And listen, folks, those are not coming back, all right? So you just need to know that. We've lost some things in 2020. But truthfully, like in all seriousness, we lost some things for sure. However, there's a really bright spot in all of this because we learned some lessons in 2020 that we will carry with us for the rest of our lives. In fact, there's kind of a big lesson that I learned in 2020 that I think will be a valuable lesson to me going forward in my life from now on. This past year, it actually shed some light on a few things that just can never be lost. And so look, 2020, we learned these things, and 2021 is our opportunity. It's our choice, and now we have an opportunity to actually focus on some things that we can never, ever lose. Over this summer this year, our family was on a trip up in the mountains away from everybody in Colorado. And one of the things I love to do on these trips is I love to go fly fishing, not because I'm good at it, but because I'm out there in the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. I'm standing in a river. And look, it's just one of the most peaceful places that I can find on the earth. And one of the reasons I think that's true is because what I find that all that I can hear and all that I can see is something God made. And it's just this amazing, that's an amazing, amazing feeling to me to be literally standing in something God made and feeling and seeing and hearing. And pretty much everything I can see is only that. It's only something that God made. It's just one of the most peaceful places for me. And my mind and my soul just get at peace when I'm standing in that river. I don't know where that place is for you. I hope you find that place. But I got to tell you, that's that place for me. But I got to tell you, as I stood in that river this summer, I was not at peace. I always want to be authentic with you. It's something that we value around here for sure, right? Is let's just be honest. Let's be authentic. And so I just want to be authentic with you today. I was standing in that river, and I was angry. I was angry because at what I had seemingly lost. And let me tell you what my thought process was, and you can think how messed up that was, because I look at it too that way now, but I stood in that river angry thinking, you know what, 20 years of my life. I spent 20 years of my life building this thing called the church that I felt like God wanted me to build, something God wanted me to do, the very church I felt like God wanted me to build. And I'm standing in this river, and I've worked so hard, and it wasn't just me. There's been people like you, and there's people out there that have worked so hard to build this thing, to grow this thing that we felt like God wanted us to do, doing what we felt like we should be doing, and then in one weekend, it seemed like we lost it. And so there I am, I'm standing in this river, and I've had these conversations with you guys before, and I know I've told you as well, that I was just telling God what I thought about that. In the place that is, I view as, that's just His. Everything around it is just His. And I was just telling God exactly what I thought about that loss that I felt. And if I'll just take it a step further, I'll just be really honest with you. I was also telling God what I thought about Him and how this has played out. And then in those moments, standing there in that river, as God has done over and over and over with my heart and my soul when I'm in the mountains standing in a river, God speaks to my heart. In this case, He kind of slapped me up in the back of the head. And here's what I felt like God was saying to my heart standing out there in nature like that. I felt like God said, okay, so that's it. If you don't have those things that you feel like you've lost, you're done. You're just going to walk away. And then this statement, and look, I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough to think this statement. So I feel like this is God's Spirit speaking to me, and God saying, what are you doing about the things you can't lose? and the conversation was over. At least I felt like from God's side, and that was just me. And it left my mind just reeling. And I stood standing there in that river thinking, what do you mean? What do you mean, what am I doing about what I can't lose? What is it that I can't lose? And I stood in that river and began to ask, okay, what are the things I can never lose? Because wouldn't it make a whole lot of sense to invest in what I can never lose, rather than investing in the things that can disappear in a weekend? Rather than investing in the things that simply because there's an illness or a virus or anything else that I can't control, all of a sudden it goes away. Wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't we be wiser to invest in the things that we can never lose? What a statement that day that God put in my head. See, here's what I want to say to you. We can do in the days of the pandemic, bring that up for me if you will. We can do in the days of the pandemic, maybe you don't have it, that's fine. The things that you can, let me say it this way. We can do in the days of a pandemic are the things that we can always do. And what you can always do are the things that are most important to do. That's so important to know. What we can't do in the days of a pandemic, think about that. The most important things for us to focus on are the things that we can always do and are the most important. See, so much of our focus, mine included, is on what we can't do. Think about that. Think about how many times you and I have thought about that. Isn't that true? How many times have we thought, well, we can't do that? Right? I mean, that we can't do that. Isn't that a crazy thought? You've thought that 1,000,000 times this last year. Oh, well, we can't do that. I'd like to, but we can't. My family and I wanted to take a trip, and we couldn't. Right? I literally called the airlines and says, hey, we'd like to go here. And they go, well, we're not flying there anymore. Like, we can't. We were living in these days of can't. And so much of our focus has been on what we can't do and not doing them. Look, let's be honest about that. They've really had an impact on us. And I think they've had an impact on us in ways that we haven't really caught up to yet. I think some of those things are going to impact us, and it's still catching up to us. But that's this side of it. See, there's another side, because there is a list of things that we can do, virus or not. And truthfully, those are the most important things that we can be doing. Probably they were things we weren't doing before, or maybe we weren't doing them well before, or maybe we weren't doing them as well as we should have before. But there are a list of things that we can do no matter what. You know, I stood in that river, honestly, just in a bit of shock over this conversation with God. And then in a bit of shock about how easy is it for you and I to neglect the things that we can never lose in search and chasing the things that will never go away, or the things that we can lose. I stood in that river in shock. Why aren't we doing those things? As I began to list them off in my head, why aren't we doing those things? Or why aren't we doing them well? Why aren't we doing them enough? Why aren't we putting more effort into those things? And look, we're going to get to the why of that in just a moment, kind of the behind the scenes. But first, let me tell you the what. What are those things? I want to share with you that 3 things came to my mind as I stood there in that river. And from 6 months ago, I've not been able to come up with another one. There's been 3 things in my life, and I think that are true in your life, that there are 3 things that we can never, ever lose. And these are 3 things that I land on as a pastor of a church, as one who is supposed to be a shepherd of people. We know that, right? Who's supposed to lead people spiritually. I land on these things, but it's not just that for me. It can't just be because we're pastors that these are the things we land on. I think this is true for you. I think this is true for you where you live. I think this is true for you because you call yourself a follower of Jesus. There are some things that you can never lose. And it ought to be the things that we're putting our focus on. And so here are the things that we can and should be doing in these days of can't. Here's the first one. The first one is praying. It's prayer. What you can never lose is prayer. It'll never go away as a follower of Jesus. You can never lose this. Because let's be honest, prayer was probably, if we're just being authentic, prayer was probably somewhat of an afterthought at best for a lot of us pre-virus. I mean, come on, yeah, we did it, right? We pray, we have a meal, maybe we'll all gather hands, somebody say grace, right? And we offer up this blessing for our food. Sure, we did that. Maybe before your kids go to bed, you would pray with them. But it wasn't the first, much less more important. It wasn't the first thing that we did. You know what we did? When we ran into a problem or when we ran into an issue in life, when we ran into something that was tough, you know what we did? We worked harder. We went to work on, we just said, I'll just try again. I'm not giving up. I'll try again. What we would do is we would diagnose the situation. We would find something that seems like a solution. Then we would communicate that. And as leaders, what would we do? We would communicate it and we would lead forward. You've done the same thing in your family, right? You diagnosed your situation. You said, okay, here's our plan. Now let's go. We just got to work harder at this. Isn't it interesting how a virus put a damper on a lot of those things? But the one thing it can't put a damper on is prayer. In fact, the pandemic environment is perfect for prayer. If you've been struggling with the constraints of what this virus has brought into your life, uncertainty maybe about the future, maybe a lack of control, maybe a lack of freedom, turns out we're supposed to be praying about these things all along. Not just working harder and getting more angry and pushing forward. We should be praying about these things. We need to become Jesus followers who pray first. And look, whether this ends at some point or this is just the way we live going forward, prayer is something that can never, ever be taken away from you. Look, your family can't take prayer away from you. Your work, you guys work at a church, but you know what? Your work can't take that away from you. Your school can't take that away from you. Your government can't take that away from you. If you were put in prison for following Jesus, look, prayer will always be with you. Why don't we put that as the priority? Why don't we view that as a priority for our life? Why don't we? So more on the why in just a minute. Let me give you the second thing that we can never lose. It's this. It's making disciples. It's like helping other people become followers of Jesus. See, that's like Jesus' big command to us. That's our marching orders, right? Go and make disciples. It's Jesus' command to us. You say, wait a minute. Haven't we been at church doing this? Haven't we been having small groups in homes trying to do this? Even through the pandemic, haven't we tried to gather people in different contexts, virtually and in person, whatever worked out? I mean, you're like, haven't we been at church? I mean, we've had some small groups meeting. I mean, a lot of restaurants and coffee shops, I mean, they still have their chairs stacked up in the corner. And we're thinking, how in the world are we going to make disciples without those? Are you sensing a bit of sarcasm in that from me? How about making disciples right where you live with your family? How about making sure your family knows how to follow Jesus right there in your house? How about doing this digitally? How about through creative acts of service where you love that distance neighbor next door or across the street or that coworker that you see only online? What about a digital invite to your church service? Look, like prayer, come on, let's be honest. Just like prayer, this is probably another thing for us that we weren't really doing well pre-virus. Like as individuals. What we were doing, and this is true because this is like, we're professional Christians. This is what we were doing. You know what we were doing? We were creating environments to encourage disciple making. Which, look, don't get me wrong. That's not wrong. It's necessary. But we all too often settle for just creating an environment for people, like bringing people to Jesus, while we actually neglect the personal making of disciples like Jesus gave to me and to each of you and to all of us who are his followers. We neglect that practice of doing that and what God gave us in the Great Commission. See, look, this virus, get this, follow my thinking. This virus put some constraints on those environments we were creating, didn't it? In a big way. I mean, it put these giant constraints on it, like the church building. There were constraints put on that. They still exist today. This virus put constraints on these environments we were trying to create, but it didn't put a constraint on the practice of bringing people to Jesus. It can't stop that. But you know one of the things I've figured out? I've been reminded of this over the last few months. Buildings don't reach people for Jesus. We were portable. We were a portable church for 11 years. We didn't have a building for 11 years. We didn't get to do what we do for 11 years. And we've gotten so worked up over a church building because we think a church building is what makes disciples. Don't get me wrong. They can be used for that. But buildings don't reach people for Jesus. People like you, and people like you, and people like me reach people for Jesus. We were left here to do that. Buildings don't create new Jesus followers. Followers of Jesus create new Jesus followers. And this virus is constraining the environment of church buildings, but we can't let that put a constraint on the Great Commission, the very practice that Jesus gave us to go and make disciples. Let me give you the third thing, and I tell you, as these things came to mind, I'm standing there in that river, and I rattle off these three things. And again, I'll just be honest with you. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. This is God's Spirit in my life saying something in that moment. And I've been wrestling and rolling this over in my mind for 6 months now. You know, the third thing that came to me was this: can never be taken away. Your spiritual growth. Like you personally growing spiritually. You can't lose that. That can't be taken away. The only way that can stop is for you to stop it. Just like prayer, just like making disciples, the only way for this to ever end, there's nothing that can touch that. It is untouchable and unstoppable unless you do it. This may be shocking news to you, but this virus can only make you physically unhealthy. It cannot touch your soul. Did you get that? It can't touch what's inside of us. The virus can make us sick. It's a real thing. It can make us sick. I know people, I was talking to people yesterday who have this. Just finding out I've got this. And they're sick, and it makes them sick, no doubt. But it's not touching their soul. It's physically making them sick. And that's a sad thing. But today we're focusing on what we can never lose. And that's not to say that our souls aren't being impacted in the days that we're living through. They absolutely are being impacted. But the virus is not what impacted that in any way. And it's not going to impact our ability for our own souls to grow spiritually. In fact, you know what I was thinking about? We were talking about creating environments. That's part of our job of what we do. I was thinking about that I think this virus quite possibly could be creating the perfect environment for our souls to grow spiritually. It could be creating an environment for you to care for your own soul and stop leaning so heavily on someone else to do that for you. For someone else to force you to grow spiritually. to push you. And look, we talk about we're pastors, right? That's our job. And so we're going to continue to encourage you. We're going to continue to bring you. We're going to continue to take you there. But let me just tell you, it's creating the environment for you to care for your own soul and to grow spiritually if you're willing to take advantage of that opportunity. You know, many of you are no longer commuting, or maybe you're commuting less. What could you do with that time? A little more silence, a little more prayer, a little more meditation. Look, weekends have become so much less intensive. Ever try reading the scripture daily for yourself and just asking God, what do you want to say to me? And then maybe writing it down or noting it? Most of you have more blank space on your calendar to grow spiritually now than ever before. In fact, this year of 2021 could be one of the healthiest spiritually experiences you could have if you choose to create that for yourself. In fact, that's some of what we're planning. It's some of the things we've talked about. It's some of the things we want to help move forward, an opportunity for you to grow like right where you are. Why? Because buildings don't cause you to grow. Spending time with Jesus and his words cause you to grow. A church building is a great place to do that. We're going to do that. But it's just one place to do that. But if you were only doing that 1 hour a week pre-COVID, you weren't growing. Your soul is thirsty and your soul is hungry, and you need to feed it all week long. Behind the scenes, one of the things that's happened in 2020, Adina, you know this, we created partnership online. You can now go and take partnership at a self-paced idea and take a spiritual step through partnering with our church. We're working on some spiritual growth elements to help you this year to grow right where you are, no matter what happens. Because a virus can't take that away from you. And so there they are. I'm standing in a river, and these three things come to my mind. What you can never lose: prayer, making disciples, spiritual growth. And look, in these days of can't, there's a whole lot we can be doing. And so let me just ask you a really hard-hitting question. In fact, I feel a little bit like I'm taking the gloves off, and I'm sorry it comes across that way, but this is the way I ask myself this question. And it's this. Why aren't we? There's a lot of things we could be doing these days. There's three things that you can never lose. Why aren't we doing them? Why isn't all of our effort into those things that we can never lose? So we'll say it like this. Maybe, like me, you haven't been doing them. Because there's elements of these for me that I go, I haven't been doing them. And then maybe like me, you're wondering why. Why have I not been doing this? Why is that not more what my life is about? Why aren't we praying more? Why aren't we disciple making more? Why aren't we bringing people to Jesus more? Why aren't we caring for our spiritual souls more intentionally? And when I ask myself those questions, I'm forced to admit something that I'm just telling you, I'm going to say it out loud, and I don't want it to be true. I don't want this to be true. When I ask myself, why am I not doing this? This is a tough one for me to answer, but I got to tell you it's true of me. And so I wrote down my answer. Here's why I'm not doing it. It's because I don't really want to. Ugh. I hate that answer. That's hard to admit to you. I don't like saying that in front of you. You know what I would rather do? I would rather set some goals for next year. I'd rather work on strategies. I'd rather figure out how to improve some of our environments. I'd rather for us to diagnose and figure out how we're going to do this. Maybe add some fresh innovation to some of the things that we're doing and bring those to the table. Ministry programs. And just to be clear, come on, those are not bad things. I'm not going to pit those against it. I'm not going to make those things the enemy of the mission that Jesus gave us. But the truth is there's really only one mission. It's the Great Commission, and we've got to do it. And with Jesus' power in us, we can achieve it. But maybe you're like me, and you have settled for doing the parts of the mission that you like, and man, I don't like this, actually neglected the parts of the mission that we don't like. And maybe like me today, maybe today is your river moment. Maybe in this moment, this is your river stance. Because as you've heard my words, maybe the light has come on for you like it came on for me, that you're coming to the realization that doing only parts of the mission that you like is never going to get the mission done that God gave us. Doing the mission only where you like it, it's just not going to happen. But there's good news in this. If you lean into some of the what's, like prayer and making disciples and spiritual growth, you know what you're going to find? You're going to find that maybe you actually like those parts of the mission. Why? Because as a Jesus follower, you have God's Spirit inside of you who is reshaping what you like. And with God, sometimes, get this, sometimes obedience has to come first and the desire follows after. But just think how different it could be for you and for those who live with you and around you if we didn't just create environments or reinvent programs or come up with new strategies. If we didn't only pray in a church building, only got fed on a Sunday spiritually, or thought that disciple making only happened when I brought someone to church or when our pastors set up a program for somebody to go through. What could happen to those people around you? And what if in this year of 2021, we put our focus on praying about everything before we made a plan and launched out? What if you and I made it our mission to be a light to that friend or that neighbor or that coworker, and you made a disciple this year? What if you turned your attention personally into caring for your soul and growing spiritually by getting into God's words and getting His words into you? Because here's what I know. At some point, we won't be living in the days of can't anymore. This is all going to be over at some point. And we're not going to be living in the days where we can't do some of the things that we want to do. They will come back eventually. At some point, we're not going to be in these days of can't, but we're going to be in the days of can. And here's what's going to be so important. Whenever those days come, get it, whenever those days come, we are going to need a different kind of follower of Jesus. Whenever those days come, we're going to need to be a different church. And the only way we can be a different church, the only way we can be a different follower of Jesus is if we make top priority of our life focusing on what we can never lose. Let me pray for us this morning. God, we need you. We haven't done this well. I admit I haven't done this well. Our ambition gets in the way. My ambition gets in the way. And I launch out and do something without you. And God, it's so easy to run and not take care of my soul. And Father, it is so easy to think that if I can get a friend to come to church, somehow I've made a disciple. God, help us to view disciple making right where we are today by loving that person next door. That's where it begins. And that them joining us at church one day is just one step in the journey. God, help us to put our focus this year on what we can never lose. God, I thank you for this church. As we gather in person next week, God, bring us together with a new drive and a new effort so that we'll never be the same. And that this might be our river moment where we will forever be changed as we focus on what we can never lose. And we pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, I want you to hear this next song that our band's got for you from our Remedy series. And then John and Adina will be right back. They've got some important information right after that song. Thanks for being here.
Love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. Yeah, you have. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire and darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. I'll sing with us all my life. All my life you have been faithful, so good, sing it. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after. Come on, sing it again, your goodness. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Yes, it is, man. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Oh, come on, somebody say. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I'm gonna say, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. Come on, one more time, y'all sing with us. All my life. Sing it out. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Welcome back, Rock Point. I mean, what a good message. Relationships are so, I should say they can be so difficult. I think that it's always a good reminder, whenever we can learn about our relationships and stuff. So what do you think about the message today?
I thought it was awesome, and not even, difficult. They can be difficult, but they definitely, more than anything, whether they're difficult or not, relationships do take work, right? They
Absolutely.
take work on both parties, whomever, if it's a personal relationship, a friendship relationship, either way, it takes work on the part of everyone involved to make it a successful relationship. So I agree.
I know. And when he said, hurt people, every time I hear that phrase, I'm reminded that whenever I am in a relationship and something kind of starts to go a little wonky, that I have to really to see it through that filter. People hurt people, and how am I contributing to that? And then what role, I want to own my own part.
True. Yeah, I mean, this statement is so short, but it's so impactful because it is true. Sometimes people can be spewing hurt onto you because of something they're dealing with internally. So it is true that hurt people do hurt people.
Around Rock Point, that helping people heal is it is our mission. It's one of the biggest things that we focus on. And we could not do that without our generous givers. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put up a QR code. And if you're ready to give today, you can just take out your phone. You can scan the QR code and it will pull the giving will pull right up. The opportunity to give will kind of pull up there. You can also find that on our app or our website. And our website is just rockpointchurch.com. And then we also have a Rock Point app that you can download and use that.
And also, we'll put up a connection card QR code. And this card is so that we can pray for you. And again, we're very serious about praying for anyone in part of the Rock Point family. So please never hesitate, because it is, as I said earlier, it is an honor for us to do that.
It is. And, I think about so many, I just imagine that, whenever you're sitting and you're listening to the message, that relational hurts start to come up, share those on that connection card and let us pray for you with that. Let us help us invite God into, your life to pray for that healing. So, all right, what's up next, Mike?
And last but not least, we're going to throw it to the family experience, which is, as a dad, this is one of my favorite parts, where we can gather the kids around if they're in their pajamas or whatever they have on, grab them a little cup of hot cocoa.
There you go.
They can have an experience for themselves and for the entire family. So please stick around and enjoy that portion of service.
All right. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
I'm Michaela, and I am super excited to be here with you today. Happy Valentine's Day! I am a super fan of Rock Point kids, and especially of all of you. I'm also a super fan of kindness. Being kind rules. It's important that with the things that we say and do, we show people that they are important. You never know what might happen when you're kind to the people who are closest to you. And that takes us to this week's bottom line. Be kind to your family and friends. That means that we should be kind even when we're tired or grumpy. We should cheer each other on no matter what. The best super fans are the ones who know us best and love us anyway. So let's be kind to our family and friends. Before we sing our song, do you remember our memory verse for this month? It's Colossians 3:12. You are God's chosen people. You are holy and dearly loved. So put on tender mercy and kindness as if they were your clothes. Don't be proud, be gentle and patient. I love thinking of kindness that way. We can put on kindness like we put on our clothes. In other words, don't leave home without it. Let's sing and thank God for his kindness that we can give away to others.
Got a rhythm in my heart and in my soul. Got a reason for this joy I can't control. I wanna sing, I wanna dance, and give everyone a chance to hear about this endless love I know. Oh, what you give to me is not for me to keep, it's for the world to see your love. Every day you're giving me your kindness. Every day you're giving me your love. Oh, with every single breath I am reminded that what you give is more than enough. So I'll give a little kindness, give a little kindness, give a little love away. Give a little kindness, give a little kindness, give a little love away. Yeah, you make me shine, you make me glow. You pick me up when I am feeling low. I wanna sing, I wanna dance, and give everyone a chance to hear about this endless love I know. Oh, what you give to me is not for me to keep, it's for the world to see your love. Every day you're giving me your kindness. Every day you're giving me your love. Oh, with every single breath I am reminded that what you give is more than enough. So I'll give a little kindness, give a little kindness, give a little love away. Give a little kindness, give a little kindness, give a little love away. Can't keep it to myself, gotta share it with someone else. Your kindness overwhelms my heart, my heart. Can't keep it to myself, gotta share it with someone else. Your kindness overwhelms my heart, my heart. Oh, what you give to me is not for me to keep, it's for the world to see your love. Every day you're giving me your kindness. Every day you're giving me your love. Oh, with every single breath I am reminded that what you give is more than enough. So I'll give a little kindness, give a little kindness, give a little love away. Give a little kindness, give a little kindness, give a little love away. Give a little kindness, give a little kindness, give a little love away. Give a little kindness, give a little kindness, give a little love away.
Hey, guess what? Guess what? It's giveaway time! Okay, if you want to enter into the drawing for this week's giveaway, then text SUPERFAN to 512-710-2323 for your chance to win. It's so important for my favorite people to know that they're my favorite people. Kindness is showing others they are valuable by how you treat them. I'm not just fans of athletes, I'm fans of all kinds of different people, like my family members, my friends, even my teachers. Have you ever noticed that it's sometimes harder to be nice to the people that you're closest to? Well, as you will see in today's story, sometimes those are the people who need our kindness the most.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story. Inspired by the Book of Ruth.
In the land of Moab, there lived a young woman named Ruth. She married a man from Judah and must have dreamed of a large family and many children.
We'll name them Zeke and Hannah and...
But Ruth's happily ever after ended before it began. Her husband died and his brother too, and that left Ruth alone with her sister-in-law Orpah and her mother-in-law Naomi. whose husband died too.
I have nothing left.
Naomi had come to live in Moab during a famine in Judah, but she had gotten word that there was plentiful food in her homeland again, so she planned to take a road trip.
Ruth, Orpah, go back to your family homes. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown me.
So Orpah kissed her mother-in-law and left, but Ruth wouldn't budge.
I'm going with you.
Look, your sister-in-law is going back to her people.
Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God.
Well, okay then.
Finally, after a long and dusty journey, the two women arrived in Naomi's hometown of Bethlehem. Everywhere along the road, barley rippled in the breeze, golden and ready to harvest.
Is that Naomi? She don't look so good.
Don't call me Naomi. The Lord has made my life bitter. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty.
Don't listen to them. You just need dinner and a nap.
Finding food was their top priority.
Some of those barley fields belong to my husband's relative, Boaz.
The grain is being harvested right now. Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftovers.
Go, my daughter.
The law instructed the landowners to leave behind some of the harvest for people who needed food, so Ruth followed behind the harvesters, gathering every bit of barley that fell to the ground.
Barley. Let's see. You can barbecue it, boil it, broil it, sauté it.
Ruth worked hard in the heat of the day. In the afternoon, Boaz came out to survey the harvest.
The Lord be with you.
The Lord bless you!
Boaz spotted Ruth hard at work and asked his overseer,
Who is that young woman?
She came back from Moab with Naomi. She asked if she could pick up the extra grain and has barely rested all day.
Boaz was moved by Ruth's care for Naomi. He waded through the barley to speak with her.
Stay here and follow along where the men are harvesting. I'll make sure no one bothers you. And when you're thirsty, you get a drink from the water jars.
Why are you so kind to me, a foreigner?
I've been told what you've done for your mother-in-law, how you left your homeland to come here. May the Lord reward you.
Boaz offered Ruth bread and roasted grain to eat, and at the end of the day, she was able to bring a large amount of grain home to Naomi.
So much food!
Ruth continued to work in Boaz's fields until the end of the grain harvest, but even then, life would have been very difficult for two women living alone together. So Naomi laid out a plan for Ruth.
I will do whatever you say.
At the end of the harvest, the workers threshed the grain to separate the edible kernel from the straw. Then they held a big celebration. When the meal was over and the lights burned low, Boaz laid down near the pile of grain to sleep. Ruth arrived and approached Boaz just as Naomi had told her to do. She folded the blanket away from his feet and lay down nearby.
Who's there?
It's me, Ruth. Please give me your protection since you're responsible for our family.
Boaz was surprised, but what Ruth had said was true.
The Lord bless you. Don't be afraid. I'll do what you ask. Everyone knows you are wise and kind.
Even though Boaz agreed to help Ruth, there was a family member who was closer than Boaz. So in the morning, Boaz set out to meet that man and the town elders to settle the matter.
I will buy Naomi's land and also marry Ruth, if you will let me.
Well, I sure can't purchase Naomi's land and take care of my own land too.
So we're good?
Go right ahead.
Today, you are all my witnesses that I will buy Naomi's land and marry her daughter-in-law, Ruth.
As soon as it could be arranged, Boaz and Ruth were married. Naomi came to live with them, and a short time later, Ruth and Boaz had a new baby boy.
His name is Obed.
Aren't you the sweetest little thing?
So through the kindness of Boaz and Ruth, Naomi had a brand new home and a brand new family too. Everyone could see the difference in her face.
Praise be to the Lord. He's given you a new lease on life, Naomi.
Yeah, that Ruth is better to you than 7 sons.
Now, Ruth's story doesn't end there. Her son Obed had a son named Jesse, who had a son named David, King David. And hundreds of years later, a new baby boy was born in Bethlehem who was a descendant of King David, and his name was Jesus.
A lot of kindness was shown in Ruth's story. Boaz was kind to Ruth, Ruth was kind to Naomi, and through them, God was kind to all of us. Kindness matters, especially when it comes to the people that we are the closest to, like our family members and our friends. But the people we are closest to are the people who can also get on our nerves, right? So we're not always kind to them, or we assume that those people know how we feel, but then we never really tell them. But we shouldn't assume. We should tell people that we care about them, or send them a letter. Special delivery! Well, anyway, and we should be kind to our family and friends even when they get on our nerves, because God can use our kindness to do amazing things in their world. So here's the one thing to remember today. Be kind to your family and friends, and don't let your favorite people forget that they are your favorite people. It was so much fun spending time with you guys this week. I hope I'll see you again next time. Have a great week.